So before I start this thing I'm about to do, going through my mind is, what am I trying to say? I think that has been a primary question since I had this thing happen to me back in 2019. It was May, and I was moving home, and things were up in the air, and work was busy. And these headaches started occurring. These headaches would feel like a rod of hot wire tugging from left to right through the inside of my skull. I thought nothing of it. I thought cold or flu. Outside of that, I was still working. Nothing really stopped me. It was just these stabbing pains. And then I developed a rash below the waistline at the lower of my back, which, again, I thought nothing of. You know, I tend to have allergic reactions to quite a few things, usually nasally, but it got a bit worse, and the headaches got a bit worse, but I thought nothing of it. I reported these on the 5th of May 2019 to out of hours, and a good friend of mine took me to the out of hours GP, and I was rushed into hospital. Well, not by ambulance, but I was told to get there. I've never been in a hospital waiting room so short. They called ahead. I was put in the ACU, and my friend stayed with me. The next day, somebody said that I had, by blood tests and other things, meningoencephalitis, or encephalitis. And I had no idea what that meant. All I knew was that my brain was swelling, and the meninges around my brain were swelling from the VZV version that I got. Again, knew nothing of it. A couple of lumbar punctures later, and 14 days in hospital, and the headaches had gone, but nothing really seemed very different. I got given no follow-up information. I was sent to London for a couple of things, but outside of that, no follow-up information. No medications. Nobody told me what it was, what to expect. Nobody told my family or my friends. Coming out of hospital was the hardest part. Whilst I was there, I was in an institution, shall we say, and things were routine and they were on time, and it flowed on. I had the guitar in my room. I had visitors. But when I came out was when things started to become quite strange. I remember coming out. I remember being in a few fluctuations in mood and understanding when I was still in the hospital. But due to company and care of others, you know, I struggled through I struggled. I carried on through. I just thought this thing would be a blip. I was put on antivirals. As I say, the rash that caused it was shingles. But I thought my understanding, my comprehension, my orientation, my abilities would return. When I came out and did the appointments in London, I still felt together. I felt like this blip occurred and that moving forwards, much like a broken arm, would heal itself. I'd worked in care for years and I'd never come across this. So I didn't know. It's difficult because everybody's story of this thing, the thief, this thing that just came in overnight and took me away, is different. My story is different from others. People have it worse than I have. But hopefully by my doing this helps someone. So it started to be noticed that my memory was fluctuating. For songs, music, words, lines, directions, routes, and my ability to talk was more honest, less hiding, but scattered. I had to be assisted with simple things like cutting food. Points of stress would bring on headaches similar to what I experienced beforehand. And I went to the GPs and I went to hospital, and it was just like when I finished, came out the first time, pat on the back, here you go. Call us if anything happens. Stress would cause massive loss of memory, wipeouts. I made the mistake of calling them blackouts. On one occasion, after about 72 hours of stress, I actually had what was called a vasovagal syncope. I dropped to the floor and went to the hospital. Got something put through my system. Again, pat on the back. The worst part is not being able to trust yourself, to trust your own memories, to trust your own actions, the fear, the stigma that came with it. And there was a whole load of stigma and shame that came with this. With all the, the shame and the stigma and the lack of, just all the help and support that some lesser impacting conditions have, you start to become afraid of being misunderstood. And as I mentioned, the memory loss is there, and the confusion and the getting lost and the inabilities that suddenly strike you when, say, for example, you're up in front of a group of people and you're giving a presentation and then it's gone. and the panic kicks in and the anxiety kicks in, and you know exactly where it's going, which is going to be memory loss, lack of orientation. You build this thing upon yourself because you go, why did it happen to me? It's everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people who have experienced negative situations in their life always have that why this, and no matter how you've tried or what you do, you can't escape this thing anymore. It's not like when you were pre-hospital to early post-hospital, when all the routines and things were in place. You are coming out of it, you are returning to work. I, for example, at one point had my driver's license taken away because it was mistaken as a seizure, epilepsy seizure, which I don't have, when it was a vasovagus syncope, you know, all these terms that I suddenly new to me. And you get caught in these moments where people look at you, and the only thing that you can come to is, I must deserve this. And there is no way to stop that button from being pressed, especially if it's pressed by yourself, when there's no support or understanding. You know, I go for help regarding the memory loss and the headaches and the confusion, and I get sent to a mental health team who suddenly say there's no need for you to be here. So they throw you antidepressants, SSRIs, and off you pop. Again, no information. I'm still waiting rehab, rehabilitation sessions for the neurology of the situation, I guess you'd say. As of May, I'll be 3 years in, and I'm still waiting. And you go to places and people for support, and it's not there. You know, as I say, you go for a neurological issue and you're sent to a psychological outcome. One impacts the other, but the primary point, e.g. memory loss under stress, or panic, or confusion, or being lost in your own house when you've only got one corridor that leads to your destination and you're lost. Being reminded of getting lost in as much as a corridor kind of struck a chord then, so hence the transition. But you know, that simplest thing such as that took away independence. I used to have projects and do things and social groups and everything else, and you know, these were things. The music, as you can see in this video, it just all went. And there's something more that goes with the blame and the stigma, and it's not just having the label. So everything people knew of you, everything people, and this is personally speaking, knew, remembered, loved, took on, enjoyed, evaporated. And those who are left behind to pick up the pieces pick up a different person. A person who doesn't understand what's happening to them, who feels guilty for this new person that those who were there watch fall apart over and over and over again, and you feel like a burden. And then hand in hand with that, you're all going and fighting for help and nobody's really doing it, and you're putting so much trust in other people that you can only believe at times what you're told happened as opposed to what may have happened. You become very pliable. The vulnerability is high, and because you get tired of trying to explain it to others, you can take on crutches. Because you can think to yourself, if I'm always going to be this walking bag of damage, then I may as well be a walking bag of damage. And so you take on crutches. It's easier to understand the negatives of what's happening to you if you actually put in place a negative which is going to cause those things to happen. You're self-inflicting further damage on something that wasn't self-inflicted. A chance, a roll of a dice brought on the encephalitis. But the weight you put on yourself afterwards can be your own doing. And that's a hard cycle to break out of, especially when you're left waiting in the lurch with very little to go on and very little awareness around you. And so your walls have been knocked down, but you're not a bricklayer. You can't get the course to help you to rebuild that wall. You're trying to do it yourself. Not even paying by numbers, just flying blind. It's been a while, yeah, thinking of leaving, 'cause I got nothing holding me here. But anyway, when you're waiting on that change, oh, they're almost faded. Oh, so clear. I'll sing the song, girls, one more time, without you on brand new June. You may call this let go, still singing blues, crying over losing you. And so, I could go on for hours. I'm almost 3 years in. Things, they rise and fall. If I had any advice to anyone, and I'm somebody who got told they were lucky, so if it's this difficult for me, day in, day out, day in, day out, day after day after day, having to record things, to screenshot things, to just as much as I can, to ask other people what happened. This isn't a lifestyle choice. But if I'm somebody who was lucky, then I think there definitely needs to be more awareness for this thing, the thief. It's not just for the survivor. I can't think of a single area of my life that wasn't impacted by this. Family, work, friends, hobbies, interests. The scenes you're seeing, yeah, that's a good day. That's A snapshot in years, what's soon to be years. As I said, I'm the lucky one. It wasn't just me affected by this. The support needs to be there. The understanding by services, by individuals, support groups for families of, and friends of. It should be an open, known thing. Because if there is worse than me, and there is, if there are people who have gone through it and are utterly lost, that is a crying shame. And that's not deserved. Nobody wakes up and goes, by the way, today let's develop an ABI. In some ways, I miss who I was before. In a lot of ways, I miss who I was before. In some ways, I loved who I became. And in many ways, I'm saddened by how I had to hide. In plain sight. I had to change my line of work. And, that's fine, because my job's actually quite physical now, and that, in some ways, is the greatest change. But there are times I embark upon activities or research that takes sensory crossover, and that completely fries me out. I spiral out. I become lost. I still get the headaches, the confusion, as demonstrated in this, probably points where I can't talk in a straight line. I'm still waiting for somebody to come and teach me, as promised over 2 years ago, how to put those bricks back in place. Outside of that, I'm doing my best. I've thrown away the crutches. I'm thankful for whatever got me to here, and whoever got me to here. So as I started this, what am I trying to say? This is my insight, my 0.004% insight into this massive thing that affects so many.
More than enough for now. More than enough for now.